Imagine you're at your local lake for a nice evening of fishing. But when you get there, you find it completely drained overnight. All the water is gone. The fish are flopping around in the mud. And then you notice something even more strange, a giant sinkhole where the lake used to be. But first, let's take a look at what happened here. Hey there, it's me, and this is my channel. And while that sounds like something from a movie, this actually happened to a real lake in northern Canada just a few years ago. But how does a lake just disappear like that? What caused this mysterious drainage? And how could the land suddenly collapse without warning? By August, it was nearly 100 meters or 330 feet across and 40 meters or 130 feet deep. That's the size of a small apartment building. It's hard to comprehend how this could happen. How could so much water just vanish into thin air? They form when water seeps into the ground and erodes the rock underneath. As the rock erodes, a void or cavity gets bigger and bigger until eventually the ground above collapses into the void. These are formed when acidic water dissolves the carbonate rocks, creating valleys, caves. And yes, the Canadian Arctic archipelago is actually one of the largest karstic formations on Earth. How did this massive sinkhole form, and why did it appear in this exact spot? But what you don't see are any mountains. You won't find any tall peaks or large cliffs. Almost all of the land is flat, low-lying, and swampy. Even a slight change in elevation is noticeable. We're only talking about a few millimeters per year, about half an inch every decade. But since the last ice age ended about 10,000 years ago, that adds up to a total uplift of about 6 meters or 20 feet. To answer these questions, we'll investigate this strange event and learn about the fascinating geology of this remote part of Canada. Basically, the land is rebounding after the weight of the glaciers has been removed. In 2013, a woman in Guatemala was walking across a bridge when the ground collapsed beneath her. She fell into the sinkhole and tragically passed away. During the last ice age, massive glaciers covered this region. They lowered cameras, lights, and other equipment down the hole, but nothing came back. This is a device that measures radiation. Why would they do this? Well, the answer is quite surprising. That's how they knew it was completely empty. They had no way of knowing what was happening below them. It was picking up large amounts of radioactive material. It turns out that the lake had been sitting above a uranium deposit, and the water was leaching uranium into the lake. The good news is that the uranium doesn't pose a threat to the environment. It's trapped inside the sinkhole, and the water table is far below the hole. So the water supply isn't contaminated. For half the year, the area is in complete darkness. It's impossible to see anything. Additionally, the area is covered in thick layers of ice for several months each year. This is a region that's full of caves and underground tunnels. It is only a matter of time until another lake disappears into the vast network of caverns beneath the surface. It's extremely difficult to reach the lake. Areas that once had a thick layer of ice are now. For example, in 2017, scientists conducted a study that identified over 8,000 lakes in the region that were created by the land collapsing into sinkhole. When the glaciers retreated, they left behind a lot of melt. Over time, sand, dirt, and rock will fall into the hole, and eventually it will be filled. Once it's full, vegetation will grow, and eventually the hole will be completely gone. These conditions are perfect for the creation of sinkholes. But how big can they get? The weight of this water caused the land to sink. Now that the water has drained, the land is rising back up. For example, nearby to the disappearing lake is another lake, named Netch. Its name translates to the English as bottomless lake. This is because it's connected to an underwater cave system that stretches for miles. The story of this disappearing lake was actually featured in a National Geographic documentary called Mega Disasters, so all the footage you're seeing comes from that. This might surprise you because northern Canada is so barren and lifeless. Compared to other sinkholes, this one isn't really all that big. In 1973, a sinkhole opened up in the backyard of a home in Florida. The hole reached a depth of 512 feet, nearly the height of the Empire State Building. It was also over 100 feet wide. That's the size of a basketball court. There doesn't appear to be much going on, but that's far from the truth. The snowmobile tracks can still be seen in the bottom of the hole, and they are about 30 centimeters or 12 inches wide. Solution sinkholes form in limestone, which is a type of sedimentary rock. Limestone is made up of calcium carbonate, and when exposed to acidic water, it dissolves. Over millions of years, rainwater becomes slightly acidic due to carbon dioxide reacting with the water. So when rain falls on limestone, it will dissolve some of the rock. Eventually, the limestone underneath the surface can become too weak to hold the weight of the soil, and the ground collapses. The distance between the tracks is roughly 1 meter or 3 feet apart. If you've ever sat on a snowmobile, you'll know that's pretty narrow. This means the hole must be at least 3 feet deep. And that S just to the point where the snowmobiles stopped moving. In the documentary, they tell the story of an Inuit hunter named Kiviak who went out hunting one day in the summer of 2016. There's no one else around for miles and miles, and it was winter just months prior. So not exactly a busy time of year. The next morning, he returned to the area with his friends, and they were shocked by what they saw. They found 2 snowmobiles and 2 boats that had been left on the lake the day before, completely swallowed by the hole. As he was returning home, he noticed something strange. A lake that had always been there was now gone. In its place was a giant hole. Now, it might seem odd that he didn't hear anything or feel anything, but keep in mind that this happened in northern Canada. It's hard to overstate just how big this hole is. As the ice melted throughout the rest of the summer, the hole grew. Before we explore those questions, if you're enjoying this video, more fun geography videos are just a single click away. So, how did this massive sinkhole form? Sinkholes themselves are pretty common, but there are different types of sinkholes, and this one is known as a solution sink. In the case of the disappearing lake, the limestone is part of a larger geological structure known as a karstic formation. In fact, this region is one of the most geologically active places on Earth. Located in the province of Nunavut, this region is full of caves, sinkholes, underground rivers, lakes, and more. If you look at the surrounding area, you'll see a bunch of other lakes, ponds, and streams. This is because the entire region is slowly sinking. It's a process known as isostatic adjustment. It's not rising very quickly, but while the land is rising in some spots, it's sinking in others. So we have an acidic environment, limestone bedrock, and a landscape that's slowly changing. Well, this one wasn't especially big. Of course, sometimes sinkholes can open up in more populated areas, and that's never good. So sinkholes can be quite dangerous, but they aren't usually this big. So let's go back to the disappearing lake. When the people in the documentary investigated the area, they couldn't find the bottom of the sinkhole, and so they decided to drop a Geiger counter into the hole. When the device reached the bottom of the hole, it started clicking wildly. Why was this only discovered now? Well, the reason is that this area is under the Arctic Circle. But what happens now? Will the sinkhole continue to get bigger? Scientists say it probably won't. What's more likely to happen is that the lake will gradually fill with sediment. Now, that's not to say that other sinkholes won't continue to emerge in the area. Thanks for watching. See you next time.